Yeah, and talking about all of this, everything that went into this film and all of it feeding into the final product. I mean, I guess it would be an understatement to say that it's complex, but then I remember you pointing out the quietness of the film, and
Mm,
it just sounds like such an and how entirely opposite that must have been, the editing that and making that decision for there to be a lot of,
mhm,
quiet, sort of somber moments, no, consistent score throughout the whole movie.
mhm, mhm,
Because I feel like music sometimes in movies sort of, funnels the viewer's emotions into something that, that might not be their genuine reaction to
mhm.
whatever's happening on screen. So I want you to kind of talk a little bit about that. Is that a correct assumption, or what was? Because I remember you had said something about it. I don't remember what you had said specifically about the reason why you chose to sort of let the film
I,
speak without the music.
yeah, totally. I mean, it's absolutely correct. Like you're the way you speak about it is right in that the film is sort of about. I mean, some of the ideas in the film are about performance and about authenticity and our connections to each other. And acting is a lot about, acting is about being truthful in the moment, but it's also about lying. I mean, actors are professional liars. And I really wanted this film to be raw in its performance. I mean, the performance, the actors are really naked up there. And being naked is really an important part of the Animal Project. Being vulnerable, being exposed, being naked. And the music was just getting in the way of that. I mean, music could have tied a lot of thematic ideas together, could have really aided in transitions, could have created like maybe bigger emotional impact. But every time I explored putting music on the film, it rejected it. It was like, stay out of the way of the simplicity and the spareness and the rawness of this. Because that's actually the true essence of the film. And if
Mhm.
I ever wanted to kind of, smooth out rough edges or gloss it up or make it sparkle and shine, the film, I swear to God, was just saying, no way, no can do.
It's so interesting hearing you talk about a film this way, as if it's like, actually an animal itself. It's like you're saying
Yeah.
that it rejected it and it didn't want that. And it's like you don't hear that too often. It's almost like it's refreshing to hear you sort of, you have so much control over your films, but then it's also like you're sort of relinquishing control to like what you've created. And I just think that it's just funny to hear, somebody talk like that. And
Yeah.
I admire that. It's really
Yeah, and I mean, I
interesting.
think that's also an element of being a parent. Like the director is kind of the parent, and inside a film, there's a father-son story. But you have a kid, and they want to go out, in really inappropriate clothing. And as a parent, you're always in the situation of, they want to do that, like, or they want to wear something, or they want to do something that is going to make them have a really tough time at school.
Hmm.
And if they just put on the nice little dress and did this and wore the shiny shoes and, they would be really accepted and they would be loved and they would be celebrated and they would whatever. Or if they, more specifically, like a personal story is that when I was in kindergarten, there was some drawing assignment and I can remember very specifically painting the sky magenta. And the teacher came by and said, the sky has to be blue, and I really wanted to keep it magenta. And basically, my picture didn't get put on the bulletin board of all the like most beautiful pictures. And so there's a part of you that just goes, just paint the sky blue, and then you'll get to be on the board, and you'll get a little star on your picture, and life will be so much easier for you. But you can't. There's the betrayal of something. And I feel the same way when we talk about music for this film, that I think music would have made this film more accessible and, people would have been more unified in their experience or whatever. But it's not actually true to the heart and essence of the film.
Hmm.
And it's something I think you have to know when. I mean, I could have forced music on it, but really you have to listen to what the film wants to be, just like you have to listen to your kid, and you have to get out of the way. And it's not going to always the film's not going to want to always do what you want it to do. And it's challenging. It's challenging to stay out of the way and not force something on it.
So would
you know, it takes a lot of faith also, and a lot of tolerance and acceptance and patience. And that's also what the film is about. You know, It's about people being tolerant and patient and accepting of themselves and one another and all the irregularity of that. So I had to really respect it, even though I thought, okay, it's going to have a bit of a harder time out in the world because of this one choice of music versus no music.
So are these things then that these thoughts that came up after you had already started filming? Or are these sort of because your films to me, you know, especially I'm a Good Person, I'm a Bad Person, and I think even the Animal Project to an extent sort of seemed almost, I mean, I'm a Good Person, I'm a Bad Person for sure seemed like it was a very personal story for you. Now I don't know if you had the only thing that happened to coincide with your life was that it was your daughter who was in the film, or, you know, with the Animal Project, it was your son who was in the film. I mean, are these, you know, sort of therapeutic projects for you, or like?
No, I mean, I would say both films are, like, everything I do, I think, is quite personal and very sort of, I'm taking things from my own life all the time, plus maybe they shape-shift a little bit and become partly imagined and partly real experiences. They sort of become a third thing in the process, just like a collaboration is between me and an actor. It becomes a third thing. So it's neither exactly the factual thing, nor is it something completely imagined. But the concrete thing of having my kids in the film is just I love working with them, and they trust me, and there's a shorthand, and I don't have to earn all of that, you know? Whereas working with new people, there's always a process of get to know you and resistance. And my kids, I've known them their entire life, so they just trust me, and I respect them so much. And it's a really cool relationship to have because I think they're amazing actors, and I respect them so much. And then we have this amazing experience of, you know, traveling together, Jacob coming to India or Hallie coming to Australia and all over Europe. And so it contributes to the family. So I would say the personal thing there is me as a woman trying to hold a marriage and being a responsible, good mother and being a filmmaker artist at the same time. And working with my kids, and thankfully they're into that, is a way to help hold that together so that my work doesn't always take me away from my family.
Yeah.
But on the point of how personal things are, I mean, being a filmmaker and playing a filmmaker on the Animal Project who's trying to market and distribute her film and traveling to film festivals and having great experiences but also very alienating, lonely experiences, that's life on tour. I mean, it's crazy. And then in the Animal Project, I mean, from the get-go, from the first interview scene where Alice, who plays the rabbit, speaks about being sort of traumatized by her babysitter, you know, who told her that homeless people don't wear underwear. I mean, when I was 5 years old, that's what my babysitter told me. I would say throughout the Animal Project, there are absolutely things directly from my life in all of the characters.
So
never mind the fact that we shot in my actual house, and that's my real 12-year-old rabbit, and my son is my son, and, you know, the director, Aaron Poole plays the director, definitely that character has a lot of his energy and his qualities, but is a true combination of who he is and who I am.
Right, that's
so cool. That's really a cool thing.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. I mean, it's fascinating. And now, you know, you were talking about, you know, traveling and
Can I say one more thing about that?
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. Go ahead.
Well, just that it's inside the film lives the Bunny Project, right? Which is the actual film, my actual very first film that I did as part of a 24-hour film challenge.
Yeah, I forgot that you
starred
said
my
that.
son when he was 8 years old. And now 10 years later, we're making the Animal Project, and I'm using the Bunny Project, which is really my film, and the voice of my son in interviews, doing interviews with him as an 8-year-old about his ideas of art and God and life and birth and death, and all of those things live in the film. And that's kind of interesting because, there's subtle things throughout, like when the lion and beaver are running around the streets doing kind of a Buster Keaton-esque chase thing, they sit on a rock, and that rock is the very same rock that, we used in the Bunny Project. So there's repetition of location. There's like really beautiful things in the wardrobe, which Hallie designed, where all the characters are wearing solid colors, and the father and the son are the only ones that ever wear patterns. So they're in plaid, and their plaid shirts are a combination of all the color palette of all the other characters.
Huh.
And in the whole color palette of the film, there's always a reference to all the characters being aspects of Leo, and the son also, and the son-father connection. So, and that's to me, that's all really personal, because that's like creating subtle links, and that to me is like the center of the spiral,
Right. So was that your daughter? Your daughter is Hallie, correct?
Yeah.
That was her idea to do that?
Yeah, well, we spoke. I mean, she's the costume designer and the production designer, but that was a thematic thing, like in the sense of the film being structured as a spiral and there being thematic elements of repetition. And I remember like having swatches of fabric on the wall in the bedroom and creating the entire palette of all the clothes for all the actors and deciding specifically what shade they would be in and how that would reflect Leo's plaid shirt and all of that. Yeah, it's definitely a creative choice that comes from her and I together.